You want to know the truth? If he left, ignored you, or moved on to someone else, your power didn't go with him. He didn't take your worth. He didn't erase the connection. And no, he hasn't forgotten you. Right now, he's watching. He's measuring your silence, your strength, your reaction. So what you do next, that's everything. The worst thing you can do is chase. The second worst, sit in silence hoping he'll come back. What you need is a strategy, a shift, so magnetic, so undeniable that it pulls his attention back to you without you lifting a finger. This isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding human psychology. It's about knowing how to create such emotional contrast that even if he's with someone else, he starts to feel her as a substitute and you as the original. And when you do this right, he will come back begging. Let's get into it. Because this power, it's already in you. Silence feels like doing nothing, but in reality, it's one of the most powerful psychological moves you can make when a man is pulled away. Most women panic in the quiet. They text, they call, they beg for closure, but every time you reach out, you're confirming that he has control. Silence flips that. It forces him to feel the gap, to wonder what you're thinking, and to question if you've moved on without him. Men are wired to respond to mystery. When you go silent, you create exactly that, and it drives them crazy. The biggest mistake women make is thinking silence equals weakness or passivity. But in male psychology, silence often signals strength. A man doesn't chase what he already has access to. If you're always available, always explaining yourself or reacting to everything he does, you're predictable, and predictability kills desire. What shakes him up is the unexpected withdrawal of your attention. When a woman who used to care suddenly doesn't respond, that shift hits a man's ego harder than any long paragraph ever could. You don't need to post thirst traps or subtweets to get noticed. Real power is in doing nothing where he expects drama. Most men are conditioned to think you'll react emotionally, try to fix things, or compete with the new girl. When you don't, it throws him off. That silence starts echoing in his mind. Why isn't she calling me? Has she replaced me? Did she stop caring? These questions aren't just curiosity, they're insecurity triggers. The more he asks, the more he starts to feel the absence of your presence. And that can be more intense than your actual presence ever was. What you should be doing in the silence is not waiting, it's working. Get your life in motion, level up, surround yourself with people and energy that feed your self-worth. Let the silence be the space where you upgrade, not for him, but because when he sees that you're not shrinking without him but expanding, that shift hits him hard. It shows that he didn't break you, he freed you. And that's a psychological reversal most men don't recover from easily. He may act like he's fine with the breakup, even flaunting the new girl or pretending he's unbothered. But your silence doesn't give him a stage, it gives him a mirror. If you want to trigger deep, haunting regret in a man, the fastest way is to become someone he no longer recognizes. Most women try to remind him of the good times, thinking nostalgia will bring him back. But regret doesn't come from memory. It comes from contrast. When he sees a version of you that doesn't need him, doesn't wait on him, and no longer fits the story he told himself about you, that's when the loop begins. He starts asking, what happened? How did she change so fast? Did I misjudge her? Men don't regret losing the same version of you they left. They regret losing the version they never saw coming. If you're still showing up the same energy, same look, same vibe, he won't feel any shift. But when you elevate everything, when your confidence sharpens, your voice gets clearer, and your presence feels entirely different, he starts to feel replaced, not by another man, but by the new woman you've become. That disorients him. And in that disorientation, regret starts crawling in. What most women do wrong is wait to change until he notices, but by then it's too late. The transformation has to happen before he realizes what's missing. You want him scrolling through your photos thinking, she never smiled like that with me. You want mutual friends to say, she's really glowing these days. That outside feedback creates internal pressure. Men are territorial by nature. When they see someone they once had becoming more attractive, more powerful, more magnetic, they don't just feel lost. They feel replaced. The change isn't just about looks. It's emotional, mental, and energetic. If you used to over-apologize, now you set boundaries. If you used to make him the center of your world, now your focus is your growth. If you used to explain yourself, now you let your silence do the talking. That switch in behavior is jarring to a man who expected you to stay the same. He thought he had you figured out. Becoming unrecognizable proves he never really did. A man's regret loop starts when he realizes he misjudged your value. And every time he checks back in through social media, friends, or silent stalking, he should see someone he can't reach anymore. Not because you're gone, but because you've evolved beyond his access. The reason most women can't move on isn't because the man was so amazing. It's because they're emotionally addicted to the version of themselves they were in that relationship. When someone pulls away, especially if they move on to someone else, the mind doesn't just crave the person. It craves the emotional highs and lows, the attention, the validation, the routines, even the arguments. It all becomes part of a toxic cycle that feels like love, but it's really just chemical dependency. That's why silence feels unbearable. You're not just missing him, you're going through withdrawal. Men operate on a different emotional rhythm. They detach slowly, often after they've already mentally checked out, which means by the time they walk away, they've numbed up. But women often detach after the relationship ends, and that delay is where the addiction tightens. If you're still checking his social media, analyzing every post, or hoping he'll call, you're feeding the very cycle that's keeping you emotionally stuck. The more you feed it, the stronger it becomes. And worse, it gives him power, because he can feel when you're still hooked, even in your silence. Most women try to break the addiction by suppressing their emotions or distracting themselves with temporary validation, maybe flirting with someone else or burying themselves in work. But real healing doesn't come from replacing him. It comes from replacing the emotional habits that kept you tied to him. If you were constantly trying to prove your worth to him, now you work on owning your worth without needing external proof. If you were constantly waiting for his approval, now you start validating your own choices. That's the detox. That's how you reset your emotional chemistry. You have to call out the pattern for what it is, an emotional addiction. And like any addiction, it doesn't go away just because you want it to. You have to interrupt it. That means when your mind goes to replay the good memories, you stop and replace them with facts. Not the fantasy, real stuff, the lies, the emotional unavailability, the confusion he left you in. Because staying addicted to a version of him that never existed is the reason you're still stuck. Rewiring that cycle starts with brutal honesty, not romanticizing the past. Men don't come back because you waited. They come back because you broke the cycle. When you stop needing them emotionally, when you're not attached to the outcome, that's when the power flips. You go from chasing the feeling of being chosen to realizing you don't need to be chosen at all. The version of you he's obsessing over isn't the one who begged, cried, or waited. It's the one who had fire, mystery, and her own gravity. That's the version he noticed in the beginning. But somewhere in the relationship, maybe you dimmed your light to keep the peace. Maybe you lost yourself trying to make it work. That's not what men remember. What sticks in their mind is the version of you who had edge, passion, and didn't need him to feel whole. Rebuilding that woman isn't about going back. It's about rising stronger, sharper, and more untouchable than ever. What most women do wrong is try to get him back by becoming the version of themselves they think he wants. They mold, over-accommodate, or try to mimic the new girl he's with now. But that backfires. Men don't obsess over what's familiar. They obsess over what stands out. You don't rebuild the version of you he craves by chasing him. You do it by becoming someone even you can't stop admiring. That confidence, that glow, it's magnetic, it's psychological bait, and he feels it before you ever post a thing. The transformation has to be internal first. Rebuilding yourself doesn't mean upgrading your wardrobe or joining a gym just to look better on Instagram. It means rediscovering what lights you up, what makes you laugh, what challenges you. When a man sees a woman thriving without him, living fully, making bold moves, that's when the obsession kicks in. He starts wondering how he lost a woman like that. He doesn't want a copy of the girl he left. He wants access to the version he never fully had. This is about energy, not just appearance. Think about it. Men are drawn to women who know who they are, who command a room with presence, not desperation. If your energy screams lack, he'll run. But when your energy screams abundance, he'll pause. That pause is the beginning of the obsession. It forces him to reframe you, not as the woman who needs him, but as the one who outgrew him. That shift, that's the gut punch he didn't see coming. Rebuilding yourself means raising your standards, not just for men, but for how you speak to yourself, how you carry yourself, and what you allow into your life. When you operate from that space, he'll start checking your page, rereading old texts, wondering if he ever really knew you, and that curiosity, that uncertainty, it turns into obsession. Because in his mind, you've become the one that got away. Your absence should hit harder than any angry text or emotional outburst ever could. Most women think that in order to teach a man a lesson, they need to talk it out, break it down, or make him see what he did wrong. But here's the truth. Men don't feel regret when you're still around proving your worth. They feel it when your energy, your presence, your attention is completely gone. That absence becomes a void. And that void feels like punishment, not because you're trying to hurt him, but because he realizes what he no longer has access to. The biggest mistake women make is making themselves too available after being disrespected. Whether it's through staying friends, answering late night calls, or being nice so he sees what he lost, it all backfires. You're teaching him that losing you comes with soft landings and emotional comfort. But if you want him to feel the full weight of his decision, you have to be willing to walk away and mean it. That's what sets in motion the consequence of absence. He expected you to linger. When you don't, that silence screams louder than words. Men associate value with rarity. Think about it. When something's always there, it's easy to take for granted. But once it disappears, it becomes the thing they can't stop thinking about. Your presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. When he no longer gets your attention, your validation, or even your reactions, that withdrawal becomes psychological pressure. He starts to question his choices, replay moments, and second-guess the breakup. Not because you begged, but because you vanished from his emotional landscape. You don't make your absence felt by disappearing in bitterness. You do it by living better. While he's expecting you to spiral, you're elevating, you're glowing up, investing in yourself, rebuilding your peace, you're posting less, moving in silence, and keeping your wins private. That contrast between the emotional mess he expected and the woman he can't quite read anymore, that's power. And power makes a man rethink everything. Most women try to punish a man by trying to replace him quickly or pretending to be over it. But pretending is weak energy, and men can sense it. What hits harder is when he can't get a read on you. No texts, no updates, no signs of emotional leakage, but you become the question mark that haunts him. He wonders, did I really lose her? Has she really moved on? And that uncertainty eats away at him, way more than a conversation ever will. When your absence is complete, no closure, no performance, no attempt to make him feel guilty, it forces him to face the silence he created. He has to sit in the reality of what life looks like without your presence, your voice, your support. That's the punishment. And the longer you stay gone, the deeper the impact, because now he's not just missing you, he's haunted by the fact that he underestimated you. The biggest plot twist you can give a man who let you go is to win loudly, confidently, and without ever needing to look back. Most women try to prove a point by telling him they're doing better, hoping he sees it, hoping it stings. But here's what hits different. When you actually are doing better and you don't need to announce it, you let your growth speak. You let your joy become visible. And that energy gets under his skin because it shows him that he wasn't the reason you were whole. Too many women stay stuck in the hope that he's watching, that he'll realize what he lost if they can just look unbothered long enough. But looking unbothered isn't the same as being unbothered. You don't just want to look like you're winning. You need to become the woman who's thriving without him. Because when you glow from the inside out, when your peace is genuine, that shift becomes magnetic. He'll feel it before he even sees it. Men are wired to notice change, especially when that change means he's no longer the center of your story. The moment you start making bold moves, setting boundaries, showing up differently, he'll notice. Maybe it's when you stop reacting to his texts. Maybe it's when your social media goes quiet, that your life gets louder behind the scenes. Maybe it's when mutual friends start mentioning how good you look, how focused you are, how happy you seem. You thought your life would pause without him. Seeing you win proves it didn't. You have to resist the urge to show off out of spite. Because real success doesn't need an audience. It needs intention. Get focused. Invest in your body, your mind, your finances, your goals. Upgrade your routine, your standards, your environment. When you start moving like a woman who knows she's valuable, men pick up on it fast. They don't obsess over the girl who needs validation. They obsess over the woman who validates herself. What most women do wrong is try to rush the winning phase. They slap on temporary distractions or stage fake moments just to spark a reaction. But men know the difference between a flex and a breakthrough. What shatters their ego is watching you evolve slowly, consistently, and powerfully without a single glance back. While he thought you'd spiral, you built a new version of yourself he never saw coming. This isn't about revenge. It's about redirection. It's about letting your new life show him what he no longer has access to. Every achievement, every glow up, every move you make becomes a mirror that reflects what he lost. You're not proving he was wrong. You're showing that you were always capable, always powerful, even when he didn't see it. And now without him, you're finally unleashing it unapologetically. Jealousy is not created by chasing, posting thirst traps, or trying to trigger a reaction. It's created by becoming someone he can't predict, can't read, and no longer has access to. Most women believe they need to flaunt a new guy, post strategic selfies, or throw out hints to make him jealous. The truth is, nothing drives a man more insane than not knowing what you're up to, who you're with, or how you suddenly stopped needing his attention. Silence, paired with undeniable energy, is louder than any game you could ever play. The biggest mistake women make is trying to make him jealous while still emotionally tied to him. He can feel it. If you're watching his stories, liking his posts, or showing up in his space with subtle digs, he knows he still has your focus. And there's no jealousy in that. What you should be doing is disappearing from his radar completely. Not in bitterness, not in drama, but with purpose. A woman who removes her energy without explanation becomes a mystery, and men are hardwired to chase what they can't understand. Jealousy builds when he starts asking questions he has no answers to. Why hasn't she reached out? Isn't she watching my stories? Who is she with now? That mental loop doesn't start when you try to show him you're doing great. It starts when you stop showing him anything at all. Your power is in not performing. You're not posting for him, not dressing for revenge, not curating your life for his eyes. You're simply moving forward unapologetically and letting the silence do the heavy lifting. Men respond to shifts in energy more than words. When your tone changes, when your availability vanishes, when your presence disappears from their life, it creates tension. And when they see you walking into rooms like you've leveled up, new circle, new vibe, elevated confidence, it makes them feel like they've been replaced, even if you've replaced them with your own peace. That's when jealousy starts to simmer. Not because you threw it in his face, but because he can't ignore your absence or your glow. Women often think jealousy is triggered by competition, so they start trying to make him believe there's someone else. But that tactic usually backfires because it looks forced and he can tell when you're faking it. What's far more powerful is becoming someone he knows he couldn't handle now. When you grow emotionally, spiritually, and mentally beyond who you were with him, he feels that shift. It's not about a new man. It's about a new mindset. That's what makes him question if he ever really had you in the first place. Your confidence should feel like an upgrade, not a response to his rejection, but a rebirth of the woman you forgot you were. Walk into the gym like you own it. Speak in rooms like you have nothing to prove. Post less, move more. He doesn't need to see detail. He needs to feel the shift in your presence. When you stop orbiting around him and start revolving around your goals, your peace, your self-worth, that's when the real emotional disruption happens. Men don't get jealous of the girl who's still hoping he notices. They get jealous of the woman who no longer needs to be seen. It's the unbothered energy, the consistent growth, the refusal to react that digs into his ego. Every moment you pour into yourself is a moment he realizes someone else might notice what he overlooked, and that fear, that quiet dread that you might actually be happy, fulfilled, and in love with your life, that's what makes him jealous without you ever having to say a single word. The moment he knows you're waiting is the moment he stops chasing. Men are wired to pursue what feels valuable, not what feels guaranteed. And that's where so many women get it wrong. They keep showing up, over-explaining, trying to prove their worth, hoping he'll remember how good she was. But when the power dynamic flips, it's not because he suddenly changed. It's because you did. You pulled your energy back. You stopped giving access. And you made him feel your absence like a loss, not a break. The biggest shift happens when you stop acting like he's the prize and start moving like you are. That doesn't mean playing hard to get or pretending you don't care. It means actually prioritizing yourself over him. Men don't chase confusion or desperation. They chase clarity, confidence, and challenge. When a woman detaches from needing him to see her value and starts living like she already knows it, his instincts kick back in. He feels the shift in power, and it rattles him. Suddenly, he's no longer in control of how this ends. Men lose interest when there's no mystery left to explore. What keeps them coming back is not your loyalty or your history. It's your evolution. Most women try to win a man back by reminding him of who she was when he loved her most, but that's not what draws him in again. It's seeing you become someone new, someone more secure, more self-possessed, less emotionally available, more mentally clear. That evolution flips the dynamic because now he's chasing someone who feels out of reach. Stop responding instantly. Stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to be the cool woman who sticks around no matter how little she gets back. You flip the power dynamic when your behavior reflects higher standards. If he sends a late text, don't reply immediately. If he goes quiet, match the silence. If he comes back casual, you don't greet him with open arms. You meet him with boundaries. The woman who makes a man chase again isn't reactive. She's selective. She knows what she brings, and she's not afraid to lose someone who doesn't recognize it. Reclaiming your power doesn't require games. It requires discipline. It's waking up every day and choosing to pour into yourself instead of pouring into someone who left you empty. When you get serious about your health, your goals, your environment, your energy, he notices, not because you told him, but because men feel when you've stopped orbiting around them. That shift makes them uncomfortable. It makes them question their place in your life. And that questioning is what pulls them back in. There's a reason men chase women who are hard to get. It's not about manipulation. It's about value. When something feels rare, it feels worth working for. When you're always available, always forgiving, always waiting, you become predictable. That isn't magnetic. But when you become the woman who could take him back, but doesn't need to, everything changes. You're no longer trying to be chosen. You're deciding whether he's even worth access to you. Every time you reclaim your power, he feels it. Every time you prioritize your peace over his patterns, he sees it. You're not trying to control him. You're controlling what version of you he gets access to. And that control, that's what makes him chase again. Because now, for the first time in a long time, you're no longer available for the dynamic that broke you. You've raised the standard, and if he wants back in, he has to rise to meet it. The truth is, if you want him to beg for you back, even if he's already with someone else, you don't chase, you don't plead, and you don't compete. You shift the energy. You become the woman who no longer needs to be chosen because she already chose herself. That kind of power is undeniable. When you stop showing up for the old version of the relationship and start stepping fully into your worth, he'll feel the loss before he even realizes what he's missing. And by the time he finally wakes up, he'll be the one asking if there's still a way back in.